Your nervous system might still be attached to a version of you that your soul already outgrew. Welcome to Soul School with Inner Journey Guidance, where we decode awakening, healing, human behavior, and life after awakening through occult Vedic astrology, psychology, and real life integration. And honestly, y'all, I feel like this is the part nobody really talks about. Like everybody's talking about awakening, everybody's talking about healing, and everybody's talking about living toxic relationships, the shadow work, the ego death, and becoming your own higher self. But nobody is really talking about what happens after. Like, how do you actually live life after awakening? Like, how do you really rebuild your life when you can't unsee what you see now? Like, how do you actually function after you outgrowing people, relationships, religion, your jobs, and different versions of yourselves? Because, y'all, this phase right here, this is where a lot of spiritually awakened people get stuck. And I know this because I lived it myself. This episode is for people who feel like their old life is no longer fitting, but their new life hasn't fully formed yet. And if that's you, you are not broken. You are in what I call the in between phase. Okay, y'all, so let's really talk about what awakening actually is. Because I think people hear the word awakening and think it just means becoming spiritual. And honestly, y'all, that's like the smallest part of it because awakening is really when your soul starts realizing that, like, wait, a lot of the life I built came from survival mode. That's why awakening can feel so painful because it's like suddenly you start seeing things that you couldn't see before. You start noticing how much you abandon yourself, how much your personality was built around trauma, baby, how much your relationships were built around wounds instead of alignment, or how much your life was built around being accepted, chosen, needed, safe, and validated. And this is when your nervous system starts freaking out because the identity that it used to survive, baby, that identity starts to die. And that's why a lot of spiritually awakened people suddenly start feeling lost, confused, emotionally exhausted, and just disconnected from everything, lonely as hell, and just very unmotivated. And this is when a lot of people start feeling like they're failing, but they're not failing. But it's because the version of them that survived their old identity, it can't come into the next phase of their new life. And this is where occult Vedic astrology becomes extremely powerful. 'Cause your birth chart doesn't just explain your personality. Like a lot of people think your birth chart is just, literally just your personality. But it explains your survival patterns, your karmic lessons, your subconscious wiring, baby, your emotional conditioning, and the version of you that your soul is trying to evolve into. Okay, so let's talk about where a lot of people get stuck because people think that awakening is the finish line. And they think like, okay, so I see the pattern now, I know my childhood affected me, like I understand why I attracted that relationship. Like, baby, I know I'm the cycle breaker. And yeah, yo, I'm here to tell you like that awareness is very, very powerful, right? But awareness alone, it does not change your life. And I really wish somebody would have told me that. Okay, so let me explain. Imagine your GPS finally tells you that you've been driving in the wrong direction, okay? That's awakening. But just because you know you're on the wrong road, that doesn't mean that your car magically just starts to turn around, right? You still have to slow down, make the turn, and keep driving in that new direction. That part right there, that's integration. And integration is where your life really starts to change. This is when you stop saying yes when you really mean no. This is when you stop chasing emotionally unavailable people. Baby, this is when you stop overworking to prove your worth. You start resting and not feel guilty anymore. And you start trusting yourself again. Okay, so metaphysically, this is called the alchemy stage. So basically, the old version of you is dissolving and a new version of you is being formed. In occult teachings, this is what happens after initiation. See, you don't just receive the truth, baby, you have to embody it. Psychologically, your brain is building new neural pathways for you, and your nervous system is learning, like, what? Hey, we don't have to survive like that anymore. And I'm not gonna lie, y'all, this part can feel extremely frustrating because your soul understands the lesson before your body feels safe living it. See, that's why you might see yourself like knowing better, but you still find yourself repeating the old same patterns. That does not mean that you're failing. It means that your body is just catching up to what your soul already knows. And this is exactly why I love Vedic astrology, because your chart knows where you likely get stuck, or like what lessons that you're here to master, or how your soul is meant to grow through them. So if you feel like I know what I need to do, but I'm still struggling to do it, baby, you're not crazy. You're in the embodiment phase. And that phase, it takes time. So you have to be patient with yourself. Okay, so if awakening is realizing you've been living on autopilot and integration is learning how to live differently, the next question becomes, how do you know what your soul is actually trying to teach you? And that's where your birth chart becomes a map. Back. Man, we have our own Dora map and people been hiding it away from us this whole time. I just don't like that. Okay, so let's make this like super simple because your birth chart is literally basically your soul's instruction manual. It's like your spirit came to earth with a backpack, and inside that backpack, you packed your gifts, your wounds, your lessons, your personality, your blind spots, and the assignment that you came here to complete. Guess what? Your chart helps you unpack all of that. But it's not so you can put yourself in a box, but so you can stop fighting how you were actually designed. Because a lot of us were brainwashed, conditioned, and we spent years trying to be someone that we were never meant to be. I'm talking about trying to fit into careers that do not fit, trying to force relationships that don't feel safe at all, and just trying to live according to other people's expectations. And then we wonder why we feel exhausted and drained. Baby, your chart explains where that exhaustion is coming from. Okay, so for example, your moon sign, it shows you how your emotional body learned to feel safe, whether it's good or bad. And then you got your Saturn placement that shows you the life lessons that your soul came here to master. And if you look at your Rahu placement, which is your North Node, it shows you where your soul is stretching you, where it's growing in this lifetime. And then the opposite of that is your Ketu, which is your South Node. And this placement shows you what you already mastered and where you may feel, overly comfortable. And that can be a good or bad thing, but it shows you how to actually use it. And then when you look at your 10th house, it shows you the work that you came here to be known for. And your 12th house is so powerful as well because it shows your subconscious patterns, your hidden fears, and your karmic residue. So instead of asking, like, what's wrong with me? You start asking, like, what is my soul trying to teach me right now? And baby, that question changes everything because it's like now your pain has context, and your struggles, they have meaning. And your life, it just starts to make so much sense. See, what a lot of people don't know is, and what they've been trying to hide away, is the fact that your chart is a symbolic map of consciousness. And it shows you how your soul chose to evolve in this lifetime. And psychologically, it gives you the language to patterns that we're operating unconsciously. Your map literally helps you make better decisions and keeps you in alignment with your higher self. Because once you get your chart decoded, you understand why you react the way you do, why certain relationships feel familiar, and why some jobs drain you, and why your soul keeps nudging you in a new direction. Y'all, that's why I'm so passionate about this work. Because the first time that I truly decoded my own chart, I felt seen like never before. That was the first time that I finally realized that I was not broken at all. I was just operating exactly according to a blueprint that I had never been taught to understand. And once I understood the blueprint, I stopped fighting myself and I actually started working with myself. And that changed everything in my life. Okay, so if your chart is the map, the next question is, How do you actually use that map to feel more grounded, stable, and aligned in real life? Okay, so now that you understand that your birth chart is a map, let's talk about what you actually need to do when your life feels like it's falling apart. Because this phase can feel very, very weird. Because you're not who you used to be, but you're not fully who you're becoming yet either. And that can make you feel really confused, lonely, emotionally all over the place, and like you should have your life figured out by now. But let me say this very, very clearly. You do not need to have everything figured out right now. You just have to create enough eternal safety to hear yourself again. That's the real work. Because the thing is, when your nervous system has spent years living in survival mode, it's going to feel very uncomfortable when things start to get quiet. That's because quiet can feel very unsafe when chaos used to feel normal. So the first thing you need to do is slow down. You have to teach your body how to slow down. And I know for a lot of us, slowing down feels like you being unproductive. But spiritually and psychologically, slowing down is how you reconnect to your own signal, your intuition again. This is how you stop living from programming and start living from your truth. Okay, so I want to share a few things that help me get through this stage. Number one, rest without making it mean that you're lazy. Because sometimes your soul is not asking you to do more, it's just asking you to stop. Number two, pay attention to what drains you because certain people, conversations, jobs, and environments, they can keep your nervous system activated. Your body will tell you what is no longer aligned. Make sure you're listening though. Number three is you have to let yourself grieve. Because the thing is, y'all, you're not just losing people, you're grieving old identities, old dreams, and the old versions of yourselves. That grief does not feel good, but it's so sacred and is the doorway to your next timeline. Okay, so number four is use your birth chart as a guide because your moon sign can show you what emotional safety looks like for you. And then your Saturn, it can show you what lessons that you're being asked to mature through. And then we got your Rahu that can show you how to get to your highest timeline. See, metaphysically, this phase is like being in a cocoon. The caterpillar hasn't dissolved, but the butterfly is still forming. In occult teachings, they call this the void. The old structure has collapsed, but a new one is being built. Psychologically, your brain and nervous system are creating new pathways, and that process takes repetition, patience, and self compassion. A lot of compassion. So if your life feels slow right now, that does not mean that nothing is happening. It means that something deep is reorganizing. And y'all, sometimes the most spiritual thing that you can do is rest, tell the truth, and stop forcing what your soul has already outgrown. And y'all, as uncomfortable as this phase can be, it's not happening to punish you. It's happening to prepare you for a life that actually fits who you become. So, if you are in this phase right now, I want you to hear me and hear me clearly. This phase is not a detour, it is not punishment, and it does not mean that you're behind. This is the part where your soul is helping you build the life that actually matches who you are now. Because a lot of us spent years living lives that looked fine on the outside, but eternally we were exhausted, people pleasing, shape shifting, and abandoning ourselves just to feel loved and safe. And eventually, your soul says, we can't keep doing this anymore. So relationship starts to fall away, job stops feeling aligned, your motivation, they starts to change and your priorities, they shift completely. And what used to excite you no longer fits. And y'all, that can feel so scary, but it is so sacred because metaphysically, this is a timeline shift. You are moving from a life built on survival to a life built on truth. This is the return to your original blueprint. Baby, the false identities are dissolving and your authentic self is coming online. Psychologically, you are rewiring what feels normal. See, peace starts to feel safer than chaos, and your boundaries, they feel safer than overgiving, and your rest, it will feel safer than proving. And slowly, You stop chasing a life that looks good and you start building one that actually feels good. That's the real upgrade. That's the highest timeline. It's not perfection and it's not having all the answers, but it's becoming the kind of person who trusts themselves enough to live in alignment. And if you know you're in this between phase right now, keep going. Your life may feel uncertain, but that does not mean that you're lost. It means that you're becoming. And honestly, y'all, some of the best things in my life started after I stopped trying to force what was no longer meant for me. So I want you to trust that pause, trust that unraveling, and trust what your soul is teaching you because your old life had to fall apart so your real life can actually begin. If this resonated with you, make sure you subscribe to my channel. And if you want to understand what your own birth chart says about your karmic patterns, your emotional wiring, and your soul purpose, I offer soul blueprint readings and integration sessions. Everything will be linked in the description below. And if this video helped you feel seen in any type of way, let me know in the comments. What part of your old life are you being asked to let go of right now? Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you in the next episode.